as usual, I try and adjust this darn camera. So, I still can't get it right today, can I? My poor, this what do you call it? The stand I'm using is just about cactus. It is cactus. Each time I use it, I'm pushing it just that little bit further. I don't want to go in that far because we're losing. I don't want to go out that far either. I might stay there. You're going to see a little bit of my screen door over there, but I think we'll leave it there for today, hey? Now, I will put my... haven't put my... it's not focusing well at all today, crikey. Just going to put my earphones in, so hopefully it will cut back the sound, the background noise a bit. I don't think it actually does. And I've just noticed I haven't put my phone on Do Not Disturb, so I'll do that now. I thought I was ready. Please start licking the screen door, you knucklehead. Why are you doing that lately? Okay. So, it's late in the day. I don't know how much we're going to get done. I've got this little bowl of, and of course they've all fallen down, and I'm going to kick the... it's just going to be one of those days, isn't it? I've got this little bowl of hand-dyed wools that I've done. I did these years ago. Some of them are hand-spun. They're all falling out. Of course they are, because why wouldn't they? That's just the kind of day it's been. So, I'd brought them in so you could see them, but I'm just going to... they're over there. Over there. A few different colours there. It's late in the afternoon because I've been a bit preoccupied with getting some other things done. But I thought it might be good to catch you up on the Needlebook. I'm not doing any more to the vintage collage stitchery yet because I need to do some sewing. I can't access my sewing machine at the moment. So what I am up to, this is the piece of vintage cutter quilt that we had yesterday in the last video. I've stitched the piece of lace on the front. I have tacked the lace inside the pockets. I can't lift it up because I've tacked it all down until I get it all stitched in. I have done a stitch down, well, it's supposed to be down the center, but I went with the lace so the stitch didn't stand out as much, so it's a little bit tilted even though I tried to straighten the lace up. And this little, the vintage little sandwich tray cloth, I've added a couple of stitches in here, just filled in where the thread had worn through, and I ended up lining it. So what I did first was I cut, you can stick your finger in there, it's just because I've tacked it until I get it all put together. So I ended up, I cut a piece off, I cut this end piece off because it was too long, and instead of tucking that under and wasting that other embroidered piece, I cut it off. I've done a hem, a blanket stitch hem in here, and I've rolled that over the edge of that lining. Then I tacked the lining onto the linen, and then I went around and turned over all of the lining all the way around, and then hand stitched it on, and then I've hand stitched it to make a little pouch with a flap. And the way I've done it, you will be able to use the back of it as another pouch as well. So I've done that much, and again it is all basted into place, so there's no twisting, so by the time I come to stitch the spine in, there'll be no shifting happening. The next piece I've done, I think I will put this doily in it, and I wanted to put fabric on the other side, and I picked out a print at first, but then I decided to go with this serviette. Now I will cut this out around the shape of the napkin, but so far I've basted half to half of the doily. There is method to my madness. As I was doing that, I decided I could attach a piece of wool for needles on the back side, so I've basted that in, so that will be ready to go. But before I do that, I'm going to stitch this in before I attach it to that. So that's why I ended up digging these out, so I could find, oh goodness, my headphones have just gone flat, which is odd because they were fully charged, I thought. I don't know if one's still working or not. Anyway, so I was choosing, what I've got to remember is I've got this bluish green for the lining. Most of these other greens are more an appley green. I've got this, which goes really well with that, but this is a hand spun, so there's going to be little knobby bits in it. Well, that's not a bad colour. I don't know. It's very blue though. It's green, but it's very cool toned. And then I've got this one. That one's not too bad. It sort of pulls all of these colours in actually. Might use that one. I was thinking about a yellow. A yellow might work actually because I've got more yellow, or orange. Oh man, I lied. I don't know which one to go with now. So this piece I think will be facing, that piece. I think I want to go the orange. So now I'm going to look for a crewel needle. I don't think this one's big enough. I'm just standing here thinking, what have I done with my glasses? They're on top of my head, as usual. Okay, here's a crewel needle, I think. It's massive. Don't need one that big. They're all huge. That might do for now. Okay. This is one of my own hand-dyed Australian wools. I dyed them many years ago for other projects. So they are 8-ply, and I am a bit skeptical of using 8-ply in here because it is going to be chunky, and I didn't really want chunky. See if I can And of course I can't thread this darn needle, can I? Got the wrong needle. There's got to be a correct needle in my needle case here somewhere. I'm sure I saw one this morning. Huh, there's one. Goodness me, it's just gonna be... I haven't asked Cheat yet. I apologise. How are you today? Have you slept? Have you eaten? Are you well? How's your weekend been? It's Sunday afternoon here. Oh goodness, I'm getting frustrated with this now. I've done almost nothing but rest all weekend. I've been so zapped and fatigued and goodness knows what else. I've had no strength. Can't remember the last time I felt this horrible. So I've just been resting, feeling incredibly guilty that I'm resting so much. Oh, this is going to be a challenge. Maybe I should have stitched around the wool first and then applique it in, because this does not want to pull through this linen. Oh. This is a bit tricky because I'm actually stitching this on the bias, so I could get that cross stitch in on the other side, so I can feel, and this is why I've basted it in as well, because I can feel that fabric twisting on me. This was not one of my brightest ideas. I think I would have been better off using some of the krill wool I have that's a lot finer. But I don't have the colour I wanted. Just taking that other earbud out because it's very warm and humid this afternoon. And it was not very comfortable. Just going to keep checking to make sure it's still laying flat. I'm pulling this quite firmly because that wool blanketing has felted and it's quite thick. I'm losing my dang... Oh, goodness me. Let's try again. It will not stay upright anymore, as you can see. Okay. Stay. Okay, hopefully that'll help. It's very difficult to get underneath it now. I thought I had done so much work since yesterday. I have done, I'm not sure if this is all going to go into this yet because it's very chunky. But I have done, I've gotten this piece ready. This is the little sandwich cloth I had earlier. I like this one because someone's already repaired it previously. It's got a repair there. What I did, it was a little bit too wide, it hung out of the book too far. So I folded it in half and then pushed out these pleats either side. So I've sewn it together, I've done a ladder stitch down here, and then I've caught the other side of that. So my theory is that should go down the centre of the spine, and then these bits here, in theory, I can attach other pieces of fabric, do other sleeves off those if I wanted to. I'm not sure yet, but I have done that. I have got that piece ready to go as well. This, I don't think you guys can actually appreciate the colour of this orange that I'm stitching with. But growing up as a child of the 70s, our carpet in our house was this bright orange shag pile. And every time I see this colour, it reminds me of that shag pile carpet in the house. It is no longer there. It was bright orange, this orange colour, like a burnt orange, like an aqua and purple. And lime green was featured predominantly as well. I think the lime green was in the kitchen mainly from memory. The dining room chairs had purple wool on them, and I think the original lounge was a purple wool as well. It was very cool in its day. There was a bar with mirrors behind it. It's nothing like that anymore though. Oh goodness gracious, this is frustrating. Whose idea was this? I hope I'm not distorting that too much. The wool is untwisting as I'm stitching, which is causing some challenges as well. Try and put some of that twist back in. It's getting dark already now. I've over twisted it, so it's getting twisted for other reasons now. Just let a bit of that twist out. I'm thinking if I decide to do this again, I will blanket stitch around the piece of wool first, and then I will stitch it into the linen, I think, because this is just a bit frustrating. It's difficult. It's difficult to pull it through that linen. I need to ease up on how firmly I'm doing it a bit too, I think. Okay, slowly get in there. Excuse me, I was just having a drink. It's very warm out here. No wonder the dog was complaining earlier that she was hot. Don't know about you guys, but or your pets. My dog, she doesn't have a double coat, but does not cope with the cold or the heat. In summer, she's constantly looking for air conditioning or water to get into or under. And in winter, she's always after blankets. She has coats. She has more coats than I do, coats and jackets than I do. She'll actually bring them to me and ask me to put them on her. She has snoods, knitted scarfy things that she wears that I've made for her to keep her warm, to try and keep her ears warm, but of course the ears pop out all the time, don't they? Gee, this is a slow process. Maybe I should have a pair of pliers. Pull it through with pliers. So once I've got this stitched on, I will continue to tack it onto the other part of this doily. I'll baste it onto there. Then I will stitch it on all around that edge. I don't think I'll stitch through anywhere else. There will be a seam down the centre to hold it together. I'm not sure how I will attach it to the doily though, whether I'll do a blanket stitch or just a back stitch, because I don't want it to fray either, but I don't want to take away from the doily on the other side. This piece of blanketing, I bought it at a second-hand shop a few weeks back, not realising how felted it was. It's so thick and chunky compared to other pieces of wool blanket I've got. Like this bit, for example. But you probably can't see the difference in how high it is. It's not focusing well, I'm sorry, but it's nearly double the thickness. And some of them are even thinner than that again. But I thought this colour was a good colour to put in there. I'm trying to think, I don't know about you guys, if you've done one of these already. This is inspired initially by the Needlebooks by Beck of So Be Curated. And then there's a few other people that have added to my inspiration since then. And while I think of it, before I go any further, Beck's actually hosting another course in Newcastle soon. So if you go to her website and have a look, I'd love to get there, but I'm not sure if I'll make it. I've been busting to do this workshop of hers. But what I was going to say was, this is the first one I've done, and I've been agonizing for weeks, maybe longer, over how I'm going to construct it and what I'm going to put in it. But what I've noticed is, crikey Moses, there's a lady down the road getting a bit upset. It's all right, darling. What I've noticed is, as I'm putting it together, I'm thinking of things to add as I go. And I was trying very hard to plan beforehand, because I didn't want to be undoing things or adding things after I've stitched them together, if that makes sense. So I'm trying hard to do them beforehand. So this is why I've thought of this. Thankfully I've thought of it now and not when I'm pieced it together. Why I'm doing this woolen bit now, so I can stitch it all in. Look how much that's stretched as I've stitched it. That was square. I can hear these birds behind me. I can't remember what they're called. They're not often here, they only come, they're seasonal. Hear that cackling sort of, I don't know how to describe it. I'm not sure if they're the ones that lay their eggs in other birds' nests. I think if they're the ones I'm thinking of, I think they fly down from New Guinea. I can't remember what they're called though. Gee, this is tiring. I don't usually get tired doing stitching, so that's interesting. Whew. I hope I haven't stretched this too far that it's going to be outside of that doily on the other side now. That would be a pain in the neck, wouldn't it? I'd have to start again. I can hear crows over there too. I can hear noisy miners. I can hear a whip bird. What other birds can I hear? We usually have lorikeets and rosellas and corellas and now when I get to these corners, I don't always do my corners like this, but I want them to sit. I'm trying to get them to sit neatly, so I'm coming up. Probably can't see that because my lens is buggered. My last stitch before the corner, then I'm going into that same hole and coming out at that point of that corner. Now, trying to make sure that I want the yarn right on that point, not to roll in here. Now what I'm going to do here, and this is what I don't normally do, but I'm doing it here because I want it to sit better. I'm going to go down just on the other side of that loop, and I'm just going to anchor that. And because I don't have a lot left in this instance, I'm doing that, I'm anchoring that on every corner, okay? But on this particular instance, I'm going to tie it off because I'm nearly out of thread, out of yarn. So I'm just going to do a little loop there. I don't want it to be chunky, so I'm going to thread it under here. I don't want to add to the chunk anyway, if I can avoid it. So I'm just threading that tail under there a bit. That should secure it enough. I'll snip that off, and then I'll cut another length of thread to finish around that square. I'm probably cutting these too long. They are fatiguing as I'm working them, which is not what we want. Completely missed the needle. Oh, what a pain in the bum. I've been struggling to thread needles lately. Okay, there we go. So again, I'm just going to bring my tail up. It's going to add to the chunk a bit, but not as much as a knot would. I'm basically just bringing it in where we just threaded it out. Oops, and not bring it all the way through like I just did then. Okay. Right. So now I'm going to come back up . I wish this would focus. My poor camera's that dead. You can't see, I'm sorry. So I'm trying to come up just on the inside of that last stitch that we put down so we can continue on, and hopefully it will not be noticeable that we've done so. I've gone in that same hole again in the corner, and I'm going around the corner now. And there we go. And we continue the way we were. Goodness gracious, this is frustrating me. Look at that, even though I basted that on, look how much it's warped as I've stitched it. issue I'm having here is my yarn is untwisting as I'm stitching. It's been a funny spring this year. It's been I guess, damp spring compared to what we've had in many years. And as a result, there's a lot of flowers flowering that I haven't seen flower for many years in the local area. We've had a plague a few weeks ago of dragonflies, which was very cruel. They were around for a week or so. Thousands of them, especially further in Newcastle. And now out here at the moment, we're having almost a plague of cabbage moth butterflies, and they are eating everything. They've even gotten into my wasabi, which I didn't think they would touch the wasabi. They've been around for months though. They don't normally hang around this long. They've annihilated my tomatoes. They've gotten into other plants. All my brassicas are completely stripped. Oh wow, this was not one of my best ideas, I don't think. If I can just get around back to the beginning. I'll tell you what, when I started coming out here to do these videos, I had one bag of supplies I was bringing upstairs each day. I'm now up to a minimum of 3 bags. I need to cut back again because it's exhausting dragging it all up here, upstairs, and setting it up and then dragging it all back again. We're losing our light, so you guys probably can't see a wretched thing. Get out of that. Sorry, I'm getting frustrated, so I'm just trying to take a breath and slow down a bit. I don't often make silly choices like this where it's so difficult to pass the needle through the thread, through the fabric. Feels like it's puckering in the back. So what's happened now, where I've started, as I've worked around, I've stretched that wool and I'm stretching it back over. It's very distorted. Even though I've basted it all down, it's still stretching and distorting quite a bit. Goodness me. Come on, you rotter, get through there. So may I suggest, if you decide to do this, don't use this chunky bit of wool blanketing as I'm using. Don't use 8-ply wool, or what's 8-ply, DK. Use a 4-ply or a 2-ply. I've been using 2-ply on everything else. Oh, Willow, for goodness sake, you scared the bejeebers out of me. Stop doing that. Goodness me. I literally jumped about 10 foot near there. Okay, not 10 foot. She's been doing that a bit lately. Doesn't normally bark in the last couple of weeks. And it scares the life out of me. Don't, please. Go and lay down on your bed. On your bed, quick. On your bed. On your bed. Go and lay down. Don't back chat, please. That's puckering now, where I'm coming back. Go on your bed, please. Lay down on your bed. She barked inside the other night, just walked up behind me, and oh my gosh. I absolutely jumped. My heart was pounding. I don't know why she's suddenly barking at things. It was never an issue before. Do I need another stitch in there, or... Right. Done. Not the neatest I've ever done, that's for sure. I don't like how that last stitch sits either. Oh, that's worse. Okay, now let's tuck this in. Oh, I heard that wet bird then. Still can't hear his girlfriend. I'm only hearing a male still. Be interesting if a female turns up, because that little bit of bush she's in does not extend very far. There's not a very big range there. Okay, now hopefully I can baste the rest of this. This is going to be a little bit tricky because that's very high up now, protruding. So all I'm trying to do now is base that doily onto the back of that piece I just stitched. I think I'm going to have to wind this video up because it's getting that dark. You guys won't be able to see anything. I'm going to flip it over now because I want that to sit flat and it wasn't sitting flat on the other side. Oh, I don't want that to do that either. It just pulled in too tight to that. Of course, I can't thread the rotten needle. Ah. Get in there. No. Get in the needle, you. I've been threading this needle all day with the same thread. Well, maybe it's time for me to say good evening because no matter how hard I try, I can't get this rotten needle threaded. And the light's fading very quickly now. Ah, there's the needle. Okay, so what I did wrong, I stitched from here over here up onto the wool. So it just pulled the linen into the wool. So I'm going to go in right beside the wool. And then I've pulled that too tight. And then come up in the wool. And again, making sure I'm actually basting that doily underneath. And the only reason I'm doing this is to make sure that it's all flat and even both sides when I come to sew it all together. Even though it hasn't exactly worked with the wool, it's warped quite significantly as I've stitched. Lost my needle again. So guys, I think I might say good night tonight because there's too much shadow. You guys can't see much. It's not focusing at all. So I will say good night. Hopefully I've given you some inspiration to get a bit more done if you haven't already. I might get a little bit more done tonight, I'm not sure. But what I will plan to do tonight is I'll finish basting this doily. I will stitch this doily onto this napkin. I'll cut the napkin out after I've stitched it down and remove all the basting stitching. Actually, I might not even remove the basting until I've actually got the whole thing together, because what I find, if I remove it before I put all the pages together and stitch it together, the pages tend to move a bit and fold, and you'll get blobbles, bulging bits where you don't want them. So I'll try and at least finish stitching this together tonight for the next video, and hopefully the next one will be in more daylight so you guys can see a lot more clearly. Thank you once again for joining me. I'm going to wait for this car to go. Thank you very much for joining me once again. I hope you may have learned something. Today, possibly not how to do things. I've done a few mess ups today, but that happens. And that's one of the reasons I'm happy to share, because I often have people see my finished product and think that it's just been easy and fallen together from, just fallen into my lap and all come together. Sure, sometimes that happens, but you've also got to remember I've been doing this for many, many, many years. And secondly, it doesn't always happen. So this needle case is a good example of that not always happening. So I think it's important that some of you see that, especially if you're just beginning. It can be a bit disheartening sometimes if you think that you're not doing as well as some other people when you're a beginner. And that has shifted. So guess what? I'm going to have to undo all of that, because that's where my seam is, and it shouldn't be sitting sideways like that. So I'm bitterly disappointed. Maybe I can just undo the doily and rotate this end slightly. So there you go. There's another good example of not working the way we want it to. That's happened because it has twisted as I've stitched it. Again, even though it was basted down, I thought we were safe. I didn't think it would shift. I probably should have basted a lot more than I did, but that's going to have to all come undone, all that basting stitch, and see if moving that end will be enough to save it, or whether I have to start all over again. If I start all over again, I'm not convinced I'll be doing this green with this 8-ply next time. But anyway, thanks again. Thanks for joining me. Hopefully, I don't know what I'm going to say. I'm completely brain dead now. I'm so tired. I hope you're all well. I hope you've had a wonderful weekend, and if your weekend's not finished yet, I hope you have a wonderful remainder of your weekend. And yeah, until next time, be safe and happy stitching. Thanks again for joining me.